Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strike Zone with St. Paul Saints Manager George Tsamis. Strike Zone is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the St. Paul manager questions about the Saints, baseball or sports in general, or just seek the skipper's wisdom about life events that may be going on. In this week's episode, we have an exciting one for you as the skipper shares with us the re-signing of star shortstop Anthony Phillips. He talks with us a little bit about some NFL action that's been going on lately, and we learn if George would bean Rob if he was crowding the plate. So let's get right to Strike Zone. Excellent. So let's welcome back Manager George Tsamis. First of all, George, before we want to begin, just kind of a watershed moment here. I just wanted to mention this has been 6 months that we've been doing the show. So 27th episode of the show here. I just wanted to mention. So I thought that was kind of.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I didn't know it was that many, and hopefully we can keep these interesting. And I know in the off season it's a little bit tougher, but hopefully we can keep it interesting, and hopefully we can answer all the fans' questions. And I do appreciate the fans' questions, and but I was unaware though that this is 6 months now.
That's pretty impressive, though. So let's begin with team updates that you have for us.
Okay, yeah, today we announced we have signed Anthony Phillips back, and you saw him play, and the fans saw him play. He's just a steady shortstop. He's real good out there, and so comfortable having a quality guy out there to make the plays. The routine plays, he made them. The tough plays, he made them. So it's good to have him back, and he's a guy I can see playing shortstop in AA or AAA too. So if he gets off to a good start with us, I don't know if we'll have him too long, but he's those good, solid defensive shortstops are tough to find, and we have a good one.
I thought the most impressive part of his season was the fact that other than Dan Kazrowski playing like 60 games there, he had to deal with a lot of different second basemen working with him.
Yes, he did. Yeah, there were we had the injuries at second base, with Sam Moss getting hurt, and Nick Rack, and then then we had Kazrowski at a retirement, and so it was Phillips did a good job. Didn't matter who was playing there, he did a good job. And speaking of Kazrowski, you know what? That wasn't bad what he did, huh? A guy coming out of retirement.
Awesome.
He played a great second base, that guy, and but he is retired this time, as far as we know. So
you can lower him back out.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's part of the reason too that we had a good season, because the guys played good defense and they made the plays out there, and he was solid at short with Phillips, and like I said, with Sam Moss and Kazrowski at second, and so it just it's good when you have those good defensive players out there, and it helped make us successful.
What was so impressive about Dan Kazrowski is that as the season was getting along, boy, his bat got hotter and hotter as it went along there, and I thought, wow, it was kind of a disappointment the season ended.
Yeah, it's the guy that hadn't played in a while, and we brought him out to that exhibition game against the Japanese team that came to town, and we just needed the players because we had a game that night, so we asked him if he wanted to come out, and so of course he did, and he almost hit a home run in that game. He hit one pretty deep to right in front of the wall. The guy caught it, and even after the game, I told him, "Hey, you may be getting a call from me, and if we need you." And he said, "Yeah, whatever, blah blah." And it ended up something happening, and we ended up getting him. And tell you what, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have not seen as many guys turn a double play as fast as Dan Kazrowski does at second base. So he had a quick turn at second, and him and Phillips at the middle was pretty impressive.
We also have David Espinoza heading to become a scout. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know what, Espinoza, he's been a good player in our league for a long time, and he's in the short time we had him, he seemed like a very knowledgeable guy, and you hear all the good stuff about him, and I think he'll be good in that role, and it's good for him, and I think it's about time that he wanted to get into the coaching scouting thing, and for some reason it didn't work out, and he didn't get into coaching. I think he would have wanted to come back because he enjoyed his time in St. Paul so much. But he'll be good. He'll be good at that, and hopefully he's doing that for a long time, as long as he was playing.
I think the Miami Marlins organization, is that where he wound up at?
Yes, I believe so. And he said he's going to be maybe coaching some in spring training and scouting some and scouting the independent league. So it's good for him. And it's a guy that's done it before, been in the leagues, and he knows what it's all about. And so it's good for him. We're happy for him.
Just to give fans a little update so they understand the schedule, because I got a few questions from people who are not understanding the Texas team that's on the schedule now. Could you elaborate on who that is and how this is working out for the season?
Yes, it's just the Texas team it's Amarillo and Grand Prairie. They will play 25 games. Each team has 50 games. I mean, all the teams in the league have 50 games at home, 50 on the road. In their case, they will have 25 in Amarillo and 25 in Grand Prairie. So it's just I don't know if they've named the team yet, but that's just what's going to happen. The new manager there, James Frisbee, he's just going to rebuild the team, and he'll go out and after the free agents like everybody else does, and he's a good guy. He does a good job, and I'm sure he'll put together a pretty good team. But when we go down to Texas, we will be going to Amarillo.
Okay, so that big road trip of 14 days, Amarillo was the spot then. Okay, excellent.
Yes. When we first discussed it earlier, I was unaware of where we were, but now we know we are going to Amarillo.
That is an excellent start there. Heading to our fan questions, first of all, Allison and her husband Tommy would like to say, first of all, George, we are so grateful for all your hard work with the Saints. You did an awesome job recruiting for the 2015 season, and we can't wait to see who is playing in 2016. So they wanted to begin the show with that.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate them saying that, and I enjoy what I'm doing, and it's always more fun when you have a good team and a team like we had last year, and hopefully we can continue it.
Allison opens up our questions by asking, without revealing too many of your secrets, can you walk us through your process of scouting and recruiting new talent? Where do you look? Who do you talk to, etc.? Do you look outside the U.S.?
Yeah, we look everywhere, and a lot of the players we get, these are players that maybe that are minor league free agents or players that were released from organizations, and but a lot of them, you don't. You try to stay as patient as you can, and obviously, if a good player comes falls into your lap here, in December, January, you're going to go after them. But you try to stay as patient as you can, and there are a lot of players that, they get released out of spring training in the middle or end of March, and if it's a good fit, then those are the guys you really go after, and it's tough because there are so many teams and so many leagues going after all these players, and obviously you want to get the best guys out there. And but with our league and the Atlantic League and the Frontier League, the Can-Am League, it's a free for all. It's like college recruiting. You got to be a good salesman, and but it is nice to tell them about our beautiful stadium. And I've said this to you several times, and I don't get tired of saying this, but playing in our stadium, it's like it's a big league feel. It's like you're in the big leagues. It's just a nice, beautiful stadium, and just the feel of it. It's like I've said enough. It's just like you're in the big leagues. It's a great place to be.
Do you actually do any recruiting out of the United States, or this is all done within primarily what guys that are coming out of the affiliate ball?
Yeah, most of it is guys coming out of organizations, but if they're once in a while that there may be a player that's not in the country that if it's something that's worth taking a serious look at, then maybe we can go take a look at them or have them come and we can take a look at them anywhere. And in St. Paul, you can look at them in Florida, you can look at them anywhere. But again, most of the guys we go after are the guys that either have been released by the major league clubs or the minor league free agents.
I'm curious because I remember when the Japanese team came here that Seigo was talking to me about they were trying to get some of those guys into an independent league teams here. Is that even a possibility for you, or that's not even been broached to you?
It's something that's happened in the past, and it hasn't been. Their team was pretty good. They had some quality players.
For sure.
Then you deal with the whole visa situation too, and you're only allowed a certain amount of visas. And but there were definitely players on that team that can play, and so there's times if a guy falls into your lap and you think he's worth going after with the visa and stuff, then you go after it. It's just something we have stayed away from in the past, just because of years ago we've tried to get players in, and it got held up because of the visa issues, and it's just something that you don't get the player in until halfway through the season, and it's just something that we've just stayed away from. But you never say never to it. You just got to see what happens.
I'm sure recent events here are making getting a visa even more challenging. So
I would think so. I would think so. And then when you have a foreign player, when you go into Canada, and we go into Winnipeg 3 times this year, and then that's a hassle too at the border. It's just it's just a tough situation, and so it's, again, if you're gonna spend a spot on the visa guys, they better be a quality guy and a quality player, and because it's times it is a hassle.
Our next question comes from Chet from Minneapolis, who'd like to know, last season you used so many different players at third base. Do you see that this being a position that is more stabilized this year?
Yeah, we hope so, and that's something that that's a tough position to find. To find those quality third basemen, that's real tough to find, and yeah, I would love to tell you right now, hey, we want to have one guy play third base all year long and have him be good. So yeah, last year we did run through a few, and from maybe guys weren't productive, maybe defensively they struggled. Even the last 2 years, it was a struggle at that position. But then as the season progressed, I felt we got a little bit better, and so we'll see what happens here. There's a couple of guys we have in mind to play third base, and that we're going to try to sign here, and hopefully it works out with a quality guy out there.
Well, if you could bring back Robert Cole, he'd fit right into that third base spot, I'm sure. So
you know what? People that weren't there didn't see the play, but I told you, that was maybe the most exciting game of the year for me. And when you're out of players because of injuries and having to put him in third base and having to make that play with bases loaded and fall down and tag third base, it was a beautiful thing for me. And it was one of the happiest moments, of the year for me. And it was, but we'll throw him in there if we had to, but we'd like to avoid that.
Chris from Crystal would like to know, if Santa was going to bring you a present for the Saints next season and you were a good boy, what would you want Santa to bring the team?
Well, there's only one thing. It's just the championship for everybody and the fans, and that's really the only thing that that we'd like to happen. Just bring a championship to St. Paul, and in front of all the fans that deserve it, and they're there with all that positive energy.
That is a great gift to be asking for, and I hope that comes true this year. Ben from Woodbury would like to know, would you be in favor of using a computer for calling balls and strikes so that the strike zone is always consistent?
I don't think so. It's just a tough thing. That's just part of sports. There's tough calls, and it's balls and strikes are the toughest too. It's just I guess you just wish it was. The umpires do a good job, and obviously they're going to miss some, and it happens anywhere. But I guess you just wish that some guys have those low strike zones that they're calling pitches at the ankles, and some aren't calling any high ones. So just wish it could be a little more consistent. But it is a tough thing. It's a tough job, and but I guess I would not be in favor of the computer. You put trust in the umpire, and hopefully they can do a good job, as tough as it is.
I'd like to ask you, because to me, one thing that separates baseball out in comparison to virtually any other sport is that there's more of an art to baseball. I mean, I think of the aspect of there's an art that the catcher has in framing a pitch to try to get an umpire to go with it, or that a certain batter gets a little bit different of a call just because they're a Mike Trout or an Albert Pujols or something. Do you see that as kind of a reason why adding all this technology would kind of ruin the game?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's just the way that the catcher receives the ball and holds it and frames it, and maybe has a good relationship with the umpire back there, and maybe not John at him. I don't know. You can watch it. You watch a game on TV every night. You'll see a game on TV, and they show that little box, and that seems to be pretty inconsistent as well too. So it's just a pitch looks like a strike and it's not, and you can be watching another game on TV where a pitch is 5 inches off the plate and you can see it on the overhead shot and they call it a strike. So it's just a tough thing, and I think it's important to have a good catcher back there that is a good receiver and can hold those pitches for him.
Kyle from Anoka would like to know. He thinks the winter meetings is one of the most exciting times of the year in baseball. He would like to know if you've ever been part of a big trade before.
Myself as a player, they're probably not. It's those winter meetings. Yeah, everybody. I know it just started here today, and it's exciting when something happens. Like today, you hear that Chapman got traded to the Dodgers, and then you hear it hasn't happened yet. So that's the frustrating part of it, when you hear something's going to happen and you hear all these rumors and then nothing happens. So, but those winter meetings, sometimes they just sit there for 3 days and nothing happens. It is exciting though, when some of these trades do go through, and and hopefully the Twins can go down there and hopefully something good comes out of it, and hopefully they can get a quality guy.
I hope so too. You got to love the job Molitor did, but if they could get him just a little bit more talent to that team, what were they, 1 or 2 games away from making the playoffs last season?
Absolutely, they're going the right way, and they're that close. And like I said, year to year, you don't know what's going to happen, and I don't think there's anybody around that think they must be in the World Series this year.
Very true. Let's see. Heading into our football questions for the week, we first of all start with James from Bloomington, who'd like to know, this must not have been a good weekend for you with both New England and Minnesota losing.
Yeah, the New England game, that was just surprise. I couldn't even believe it. And I mean, they were up 14-0 too, and then they just fell apart. And it's not every day that you see Brady throw a big interception, and he threw a couple big ones, and yeah, that was shocking. Even though at the end, though, they did try to come back there at the end, and down by 7 there with a minute left. But and then the Vikings game, yeah, that was just a disappointing game. They were just outplayed, and you just got to give credit to Seattle. They came in and played a great game, and the Vikings they have 3 days to get ready for another real tough matchup in Arizona. It's that's the way these sports go, the highs and lows. The Vikings were a week ago, hey, we're looking great, and then now we just lost a tough one and going into a tough environment in Arizona. So hopefully they can go in there and play better and pull one out.
You had to admit, though, that the crazy way that New England lost. I mean, how many times do you have a punt block for a touchdown, a punt return for a touchdown, and an interception return for a touchdown all in the same game?
Yeah, and you know what? It's just even with the punt, there was 12 seconds left in the half too. Like the half was over, and it changed the whole game. And then even when it was tied, and Brady was driving him in, and he threw that bad interception, and it's something you don't see him do very often.
Extremely rare, extremely. Well, maybe they got all their bad luck out in one shot, so
it was worked
against them.
It's just weird how it works. The Eagles, I mean, Thanksgiving they were humiliated by Detroit, and then they go in and beat maybe the best team in the league, and yes, we know New England has all the injuries, but it just wasn't a good day there.
No,
and I know there's a lot of happy people around that want to see them fail. They're not very likable, so it's just their quarterback and the coach have been great for a long time.
Well, when you win all the time like that, it's easy for people to be jealous.
Exactly.
So.
Absolutely.
Are we expecting to have a little hatred towards the Saints like that? Would you be okay with that if you were winning all the time and everybody hated you, or?
Well, yeah, there's some of that going on anyway. So yes, it's the way it goes. That's all right though. That's part of sports.
Absolutely. Our next question is from Owen from Duluth, who'd like to know, Russell Wilson looks like a beast again. Do you see Seattle as the team to beat now?
I tell you what, he is something. He looked great, and he played a great game. But you know what? Seattle's the team to beat. Week to week it changes. You just don't know what you're going to see every day. I think it's a surprise every week. So you just don't know week to week who's in first, who looks good, and look at even what's going to happen tonight with this Dallas-Washington game. If Dallas wins that game tonight, they're a game out of first place. Now, can you believe that after as horrible as the season's been? It's just you just don't know. So it's going to come down to who gets hot and goes on a roll, kind of like the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 1-5, and now they're what, 7-5? It's just somebody getting hot at the right time.
Absolutely. Cy from Plymouth asks of you, wasn't that ending to the Packers game really something else? That was such an incredible throw by Rodgers.
Amazing. It was something else. You couldn't even believe it, and it was just, and they were outplayed most of that game, and it just didn't look good, and it just, but that was one beautiful throw, and I'm surprised there weren't more guys standing back there at the goal line to knock that ball down. But, you know, that just tells you it's that close to, when that happened, the Vikings had a game lead, right? And
yes.
Before that Hail Mary, it would have been a game and a half, but that just totally just changed everything, and now they're tied with them again, and they're going to have to go in that last game and win that game in Green Bay, and hopefully they can, and it'll be exciting, but, you know, that was an impressive throw by Rodgers. Absolutely.
Our next question is from Colin from Richfield, who'd like to know, is it just me or do the referees seem incredibly bad? It just has been so bad since the real refs returned after the replacement refs were gotten rid of. What is the deal?
You know, there seems to have been a lot of questionable calls this year. And I've seen that question asked, you know, a lot this year, and it just seems like there's been some mistakes, and I think a lot of it has to do with that, with our favorite little catch rule that we always talk about that just seems to frustrate everybody, and just seemed to be a lot of it going on, and you know, hopefully you hate to see when the flags are thrown all the time, and you hate to see if, you know, a bad tough call changes a game, but so hopefully that isn't the case here down the stretch.
I hope not either, too, because, boy, there's been a lot of complaints about the referees, that's for sure. Clem from Minneapolis would like to ask of you, do you think Cam Newton has made himself the MVP now?
Well, if the season ended today, yes, because, I mean, if you had asked me that yesterday before, I would have said, no, Brady's MVP, and but he's been something else. He's made some nice plays. He runs. He's just been excellent. I would have to say he'd be the favorite, and Carson Palmer probably deserves some. He probably deserves some votes too, because I don't know where they would be without him. He is impressive. And another guy that'll never win the MVP because his position is just an outstanding player, and maybe the best of his position is Antonio Brown is one exciting player to watch. He just makes so many things happen.
For sure, and that's a great point you're bringing out, because, boy, he is the most dominant wide receiver and return guy in the league. That's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and it was impressive when he jumped on the end zone. I mean, on the
it was.
On the goalpost there. I couldn't even believe it. I've never seen it before like that. It actually kicked the girl and grabbed the girl's arm. It was awesome. It was just a funny thing to see, and he is just. He's a little guy, but he's so fast, so quick, and just so hard to contain. And but he'll never win the MVP because of his position. But he is one valuable player.
Absolutely. Our next question comes from Dan from Lino Lakes, who says, "Man, is Ben Roethlisberger good? Why don't people really consider him an elite quarterback?"
He should be. He is something else. He makes the plays, and I know we talked about this a little bit last week. He is one guy that should be, and I don't know, he's a top 3 quarterback to me, and like I said, I even think we talked about this last week, that Pittsburgh, they get in the playoffs, they're one dangerous team, and they can beat anybody, and on the NFC side, Seattle too, and they get in, they're just dangerous, and but Big Ben, he is an excellent quarterback.
Boy, after the way those two played a couple of weeks ago, that would be a great Super Bowl to see Seattle and Pittsburgh again. Wow.
Yeah, that would be, but you know what, let's hope Minnesota and New England get in. That would be something. That's what I would like to see.
Paul from Mendota Heights points out, there are so many teams firing their assistant coaches during the season. Do those kinds of things work to make changes like that to a team in the middle of the season?
You know, sometimes you just don't know what's going on in locker rooms and clubhouses. You just don't know. You know, it may just be more than guys doing a good job coaching. It may be more of a personality. You know, who knows? It's just at times we just really don't know what's going on inside the locker rooms, and obviously there's a reason for when things happen, but maybe we never find out what the reasons are.
Our next question comes from Zach from Minneapolis, who says, Skipper, how about those Golden State Warriors? That Steph Curry is just a beast.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't seen a second of any NBA games this year, but every time I look, I see Golden State 22-0, and they're undefeated, and they win every game, and you see Curry scored 40 points. And he is, I guess he's something else. You know what? It'd be nice. It'd be nice. I hope they keep winning. It'd be nice to see somebody else in the NBA go undefeated for a long time. So, they can keep it going. It'd be great for the sport.
Absolutely, 22-0. Quite a run that they're on.
That is something else.
Yes.
It's something.
Yes, it is. Our last question is an interesting one from Gary from Minneapolis, who says, I heard you talk about you were going to pitch to Rob to see how many swings it takes before he can finally hit one. If Rob crowded the plate, would you give him a little chin music to back him off?
Absolutely. Why not? I think we need to, keep him honest there, and, it's his job to get out of the way, and if it happens, it happens. But you do want him to get in there and hit some, and if he starts hitting them too hard, then you just knock him down a little bit and keep him in line.
You would drill me like that.
Well, you have to get out of the way. It doesn't come in very hard, though, anyway. I never was a hard thrower, so you'd have a chance to get out of the way.
Okay, we'll have to see about that. Well, thanks for joining us this week, George.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
All right, bye. We want to thank George Tsamis for joining us on Strike Zone this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the St. Paul Saints skipper, please send them to us at AskGeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's AskGeorge@minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Sunday evening so that we can give the skipper a little time to review those questions before we record the show Monday afternoon. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report. I want to thank you for joining us this week, and we'll see you next time on Strike Zone.